Hi, everybody. This is Jim McCarthy, CEO of Goldstar, and I'm here to share with you the consumer sentiment data from early May 2020. We are now doing this twice monthly. This is our first take at it, but we plan to be back and sharing this data with you twice a month. And so let's get started. Let's start by asking the question, what are the goals of the Goldstar Consumer Sentiment Survey project? And there are really two. One is we want to gauge the ongoing sentiment of the event going public during the COVID crisis. And in particular, the people we're talking to are actually not just a broad sweep of people, they're frequent and semi-frequent event goers, as you'll see in just a minute. This is really the heart of our industry. And so these are the people that will be not only the core of your business, but also probably the first ones to return. The second goal is to share this information with Goldstar event partners like you and the industry as a whole to better inform the return to live events. This is, if ever there was a moment to realize that we are all in this together as an industry, it is now. And so the health of our industry is the health of all our businesses. So we're not hoarding this information by any means. All right. Tell you a little bit about the survey itself. I mentioned this before, but we're going to do it twice a month. The first take is the data you're seeing today, but we've already commenced the mid-May survey, and we'll be doing it twice a month. And watching the trend here, I think one of the things that's really important is not just the number, but it's the trend. And so we're going to share that with you. We are reaching a broad group of people. We are getting a lot of responses, as you'll see in a minute. And the reason we're doing that, in part, is to make sure that we're reaching all ages. We're reaching many major metros. And actually, from this survey to this mid-May survey, we're actually expanding that number, which I'll mention briefly. These people are frequent event goers. 65% of the people in this particular survey report going to live events, well, before in the previous times, at least once or twice a month, and 25% of them say they actually go weekly or even more. So we love those people, don't we? And the whole idea of this is there's a large sample with valid results, 2,727 respondents in the survey, which, given who we're reaching, is certainly large enough to be representative of something valid. So with all that having been said, let's talk about what we saw in the first take on the survey. We ask a very important question. This is the number. If you forget everything else that I'm telling you today, just remember this. We are measuring something we call the return readiness score. And in early May, that number is 40. Well, you might be asking yourself, what in the world is that? Well, we ask people the question right now, describe your willingness to go out to live events where you live in general, assuming they're legal and being produced. And we gave them a slider bar on their screen that allowed them to go from 0 to 100. 0 meant I am not going. It doesn't matter what you do. I'm not going. 100, by contrast, said, oh yeah, if the events are happening, I'm there. And 50 meant, a balance of those two things. It's kind of like maybe I would, maybe I wouldn't. And so people could just move the slider bar wherever they wanted. And the average for early May is, drum roll please, well, you can already see it, so it's not much of a suspenseful reveal. It's 40. Now, what does 40 mean? 40 means that people are closer to the reticence to go out than they are enthusiasm about going out. And that number, we were all sort of trying to guess what this number would be, and we had no good idea. But 40 feels about right to me in terms of people's, they're looking for ways to say yes, but they're not there yet. Overall, this is a number that indicates that people are still a little lukewarm, more than that, on the idea of going to anything at all. I should say that the most common two answers, and this isn't a big surprise, but the most common two answers were 0 and 100. So it's not that everybody is at 40, it's that that's the average. A lot of people cluster around that, but you have a lot of people who are not going out under any circumstances for any reason now, and other people who would definitely go out for sure. So that's the headline of this data, but there's a lot more to say. For example, we looked at multiple different metros, and the numbers varied somewhat, but not dramatically. In Seattle and LA and New York, you were in your mid to low 40s. I think Seattle's 43, LA and New York 41. San Francisco's a little bit below that. And then all the way down at 33 was Atlanta. So the range here is 43 to 33. And that, I wouldn't make too much of this. I think this is subject to change a little bit more based on the local events that are happening, or I don't mean local events like shows, I mean what's happening locally. I think these numbers are going to bounce around more by metro, but this range is pretty consistent here. So right now, it doesn't look like we've got places where people are absolutely raring to go and places where people aren't. So we are, what I mentioned before is in the mid-May survey, we actually added a few more metros to this. So we're going to have, I think the number is 14 metros in the second one. We want to make sure we're still getting a large enough sample to be valid, but we'll have a little more if you're curious about your metro and it's not in one of these, then you might be included in the next one. So not a lot going on in terms of differences by metro, in my opinion, although if you were in Atlanta or Seattle, you might see a difference. We asked the question, we built on the question. We said, describe your willingness to go out to live events where you live in general, assuming they were legal and being produced. And then we asked, how about in a small venue under 250 seats? And then how about in medium-sized venues, 250 to 5,000? And then how about in large venues? And what we saw was a drop-off as you moved up the scale from small venues where the number was 39, or really right at that same 40 number that we saw, to 29 for medium venues and 21 for large venues. So you can see that people have, no doubt, greater reluctance to go to places with more people, to the point where I don't think there's really much viability in a large venue, or possibly even a medium venue, in the mind of consumers right now. Ages. Just as you'd imagine, there is a significant difference between people of different ages, because as we know, the COVID disease affects people differently at different ages in general. And so what I thought I would do here is just give you the endpoints on this. People 25 and under are fairly significantly more willing to go out there at 49. That's still not a great number, right? You'd think that if you felt that the virus wouldn't harm you, maybe it would be higher, but I think people are being very mindful of the fact that they can spread it to other more vulnerable people. And then people 65 and older are 36. So even still, I mean, there is a difference, and every age in between is just a stair. It's like, imagine a staircase from the 49 down to 36. It's a very, very predictable step down. We'll share a little more data on this with the next one, but I wanted to give you a picture here of the fact that age really does matter. One thing I would add is that if you cross-tab this stuff and you say people 65 and over in a large venue, the number is 12, which is just shows you that when you put these factors together, you're really seeing something powerful. So that's people over 65 in a large venue. What's your willingness? It's basically as low as you could ever imagine it being. So that probably no surprises there. All right, so then we asked people a question that we think is going to evolve in an interesting way as time goes on. We asked them, what would change about your willingness to go out if venues did the social distancing and cleaning that we talk about? We've been talking about it nonstop. You can see the way we asked it at the bottom of the screen. And the answer to that is not very much. So despite the, scientific soundness of the idea of cleanliness and distancing, it's not yet anyway, it's not really ringing people's bells in terms of moving them very far. So we went from 40 to just 41. So we're going to keep tracking this. We revised the way we asked the question to make it a little more straightforward in the mid-May survey, but for now, this is where we are. All right, what else did we say? Well, we asked them, I want to finish on a bright note here. We asked them, how much are you looking forward to being able to go to live events, sports, entertainment, and arts again in the future? I think we asked this just because I think I knew it would make me feel better, make us all feel better. And the answer is 83. Just really a lot of enthusiasm for the day when people will be able to get out there and do this again. And by the way, this was actually even a little higher among the younger cohorts than among the older ones. So that's something that we're going to keep monitoring, just because we want to make sure that actually we'd love to see this we'd like to see that needle just bump right up against 100, so that when we are back, we are just going to explode with excitement and fun and events and sales and everything else. So that's it for this data, for this sample of data, I want to remind you that if you want to hear this data when it's first released, you can. Goldstar holds an expert chat twice a month. If you're a Goldstar organizer, you're going to get an invitation. You can find the event on Goldstar. And if you have any questions about how to do that, there's a couple of places you can go. We have a Facebook group called Show Up, and we have venue advisors and help staff that can direct you there at any point. So you can go to Facebook and search on the group Show Up. If you are a professional venue organizer, we will give you an invitation and you can come join that group. There's a lot of information being shared there. Secondly, if you write to venues@goldstar.com and you just want to know how to get involved, hear this data, jump in, we will get back to you with that as well. So the next meeting is on May 27th, and we already have a tremendous amount of data coming in for that survey, and it should be very interesting. I hope we see you there. Thank you very much. This is Jim McCarthy from Goldstar. See you next time.